Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of BiggerLife Podcast. Today, I have our guest, Rod Joseph. He's a real estate investor with passion in real estate, basically diversified portfolio, and he found his financial freedom with diversity, both in terms of location and the type of asset classes, long terms, midterm, short term rentals, you name it, he has it. And he is right here in down south in Atlanta, locally here with me. Hey, Rod, how are you doing today?
Good, good. Thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me on the podcast here.
I
I
appreciate it.
yeah, really appreciate being your first guest.
Thank you, thank you. So, Rod, tell us a little bit about yourself, right? So, I know you've been doing a lot of real estate, and we'll dig deeper into the real estate side of the things. However, I'd like to understand who Rod is. How did you get started? Tell us a little bit more background about yourself first before we start talking real estate here.
I feel like I'm a regular guy. Okay, I don't think that what I do or what we've done is anything that like someone special. You have to be someone special to do. I think anyone can do what we've done. Um, I'm a Haitian immigrant. My parents are from Haiti. I actually was born in Haiti, and we moved to the United States when I was 13. Our parents, definitely kind of uh, believed in education, and I was able to get a scholarship, go to school, went to Florida International University. I studied computer science. My first IT job, I would say, I worked on campus, helping out um, in the computer department. After that, I started contracting. And when you're contracting in the IT world, you're constantly interviewing, right?
Hmm.
Because your job might last 3 months, might last six, might last a year. You don't know, but you're always contracting. And during the downtimes when I'm not contracting or in between contracts, I always just think there must be a better way, right? There's got to be a better way in this, to make a living. By that time, you're used to, when you're contracting, you're making good money, but you don't know how long it's going to last. So you always gotta be looking for your next. I was always trying different things. I've done websites. I've done on the side. I'm talking on the side of my regular job. I always had something else going on the side. I discovered, real estate. The concept of passive income. My first foray into real estate, my wife's father lived in Massachusetts. My wife at that time, or he wanted to help us get into the real estate um, game, and he helped us to get a duplex in Florida. It was in Coral Springs, Florida. We got a duplex, and we actually got two duplexes. I would say yes, I have these duplexes, but I was not educated in the real estate
So you were
game.
not educated in the sense how this can be a field or a next career for you, or how this can bring the financial freedom to your life, right?
Right. Well, how to run it? I was not a good landlord. It was not. I mean, it just screening tenants. I didn't know how to do that. So
And did you have your primary home before that, or that was your?
yes, yes, yes. We bought our primary home at that time, and just between we just between contracts, I just felt like there was something more that we can do. And we thought real estate was the way to go. So he was helping us trying to help us get in there. But without the education that goes behind that, it did not last. Okay. I ended up with some bad tenants. Um, the place was not maintained properly. Um, and all these, I think, helped me later on um, become a better landlord, a better real estate investor, because we ended up losing those properties. Uh, the foreclosure, when you're just starting, you just get whoever has money,
Mhm.
you let them into the door, which is not the right way to go.
So
And
it looks like anything and everything that could go wrong did actually go wrong for you with
it
those
went wrong.
properties.
Yes, yes. But I learned a lot from that. And during that time period, we had a lot of financial difficulties being young and all this responsibility that I was not ready for, right? We ended up losing both properties, and my marriage dissolved during that time period.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, we happened to have two kids at the time. Um, things were not going right. Lost my primary residence also. This was like during 2000, I believe, when the, um, the tech bubble burst or whatever. And I had a rough time getting another contract.
Yeah,
Um,
so you are distressed both financially and emotionally and personally, so because of all the situation, and partially in some perspective it was the tech bubble that busted, and also this rental property that had gone wrong on you because of
right.
the lack of the education.
That's right. That's right. That's correct. So, and I feel like it might have also been, I can see the failure also was because I didn't work, maybe because the properties were given to you, right? Not given to you, but they were like really subsidized by, um, the, the father that was trying to help us get in. But I think if you had worked harder for these properties, um, which, kind of brings me to the fact that now I'm thinking about, we've built all these properties and you're going to give them to your kids, leave them to your kids sometime in the future when you're gone, right?
So it's super
If
important to train and educate your kids
that's correct,
about
that's correct,
how this real estate uh, can bring wealth, but can also bring a lot of distress
that's right,
if you
that's
don't
right.
use it the right way.
If you don't understand how it works, it's given to you too easily. It's possible that you can lose it just as easily, you know.
No, I agree, and that's the reason. Like I have two young ones, right? So not only I'm thinking about financial planning in the sense of, okay, so how do I pass on this wealth generationally to my to my lineage, but also I try to educate them so that they are aware of the pitfalls. Just like as you said, if it's a quick and easy thing and they don't know what to do with this whatever you earn in your lifetime, it can go into distress mode pretty quick. It doesn't take that long.
Very, very easy. Very easy. There's a time when there's a lot of refinances going on, um, which probably led to the next economic, the stress of the economy during that time. Everybody was getting refinances. This was when my wife was in the mortgage business, also the real estate business. So while I was in between contracts, we, um, we tried doing that. I did the cold calling, get calling people to get refinances. I got to see that side of the world, which I thought was, it also helped me because later on in life, when I'm looking for uh, property in my other life, like future life, um, You have to do these cold calling, so you have to get used to that. Also, getting so I feel like everything that happened in the past helped me get to where I am today. Whether there was successful or failure, um, it helped me get to where I am now.
Yeah, it shaped you, definitely.
Right, right. So I don't feel like it was a bad thing. So it's something that happens to you, and you just learn from it, right?
So when do you think that shift happened? So this is a time frame where you were, learning a lot about the industry just by working to mortgage and the other things that you were doing, and you also had your learning experience from those distress from the properties that you got at the subsidized as a gift from your father-in-law. But now your next journey. So how did you get started? When did you realize that you're ready to, because you already burned your hands before. So how did you get started, and how did you realize that you're ready to invest?
I wanted something of my own. Instead of working for someone, I wanted to be able to. Uh, I wanted to be able to kind of, start a business on my own. So even through all that, we're still trying to figure out how do we get this passive income that everybody's talking about. How do we get something that is sustainable? And we tried different things, but nothing worked like real estate. I went back into contracting for IT. I think the IT world started coming back. The jobs are starting to open up again. So I got into that. Um, and during that time, I'm still thinking in between like projects, I would still be thinking, researching, what can I do? I just started saving money because, um, and then I met my second wife. Even she had the same idea that, um, yes, we got to do something that's passive. I think we started listening to Dave Ramsey, right? He was on the radio at the time, and everybody's talking about, oh, I'm financially free. I'm like, well, how can we get financially free? And everything led back to real estate. Um, we got married. We that she had a townhouse in Florida, and we moved to Georgia. And she's like, "Whoa, we got to sell this townhouse." I'm like, "Wait, let's not sell it. Let's rent it out." Um, so we rented it out. I stuck a Section 8 tenant in there, and you know, she was there for a very long, 5 years or so. That property kept sending us money. I bought a duplex here in Lawrenceville.
So you did the cash out refi on that to put the money out, get the money out so you can reinvest. And that's the beauty of real
Right,
estate, right? So once the property appreciates, so the strategy that Rod uses is, so he has this townhome that has appreciated over time, and he uses real estate's leverage position to do a cash out refi out of that so that he could purchase a duplex, another property here in Lawrenceville. Now, that's great. So that gets you the seed money so that you can go ahead and buy this investment in Lawrenceville. So how did
right,
that
right.
go?
I don't think I learned how to be a landlord, how to screen tenants yet at that time. So I found the worst house in the neighborhood in this rental community. Found the worst house. We bought it with the cash from that Florida property. We fixed it up myself. In between my 9 to 5, I'd be running over there trying to paint, trying to do everything to prepare it for the next tenant. Um, and then mortgages coming up, still didn't have a tenant. If you have like maybe a month or 30 days or 60 days before you have to make a payment. And someone came up and said, "Hey, I have cash." And I said, "Yes, let's take it. You know, we got to make this mortgage payment. Let's just put somebody in there." Um, 2, 3 months later, I had to do an eviction, right?
Mm.
Because of course, I put the wrong person in there. And I'm looking around now and saying, okay, I'm going to have to go to court. Uh, you know, what do I do? And then that's when I discovered Georgia REIA. Okay.
And this is what year?
This was, it had to be 2000, it must be 2007 at that time. So I started going to the meeting. I said, "Oh, there's a landlord meeting. Let's go there." So we went to the landlord meeting together and started asking questions. Hey, I've got I think that's when I met Scott. I said, "I have an eviction coming up. What do I do?" We're both, my wife and I were both pretty nervous. This is our first time having to go to court, having to evict somebody. But from that point on, I started going to the Georgia REIA meetings, got some tips on how to screen tenants, how to be a better landlord, um, the concept of not running every time to fix everything yourself, finding a good handyman. Those life lessons that I should have learned before, but now I'm learning them. All those things, that kind of things that Georgia REIA, helped me to do.
Yeah, let me rephrase that, right? So Georgia REIA is actually an organization. It's a Georgia Real Estate Investors Association. So those kind of associations are generally in every neighborhood or every major city or
Right.
the county. And those associations is basically a grouping of people where they come together, discuss about the local needs and the local trends, the local troubles, and discuss the ideas. So if you are not part of any real estate investors association, we highly recommend that you join someone, take a feeler of it, and usually they'll let you go to, as a non-member, you can go in and attend 1 or 2 sessions for free, or they might charge you a small fee. But yeah, so join those. But if it's a hefty amount, maybe there are some knockoffs at every place where you are being charged like $10,000, $20,000 just to be part of some kind of organization. So try to see if that's a good fit for you. Otherwise, these local associations like Georgia REIA is what, $200 per year annually, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And right now, pretty much every week we have some kind of a meeting where it's landlord meeting or rehab meeting or deal makers or new investors kind of a grouping. The other takeaway from Rod's discussion was not trying to fix everything yourself, right? Maybe it's time, maybe it's quality of work, and maybe it's also time in the sense of I call in a handyman. It takes handyman, let's say, 2 days to do something. Whereas if I'm trying to do it, I'm trying to be perfect, and it takes me a month. Now that's lost rent. That's overpaid budget. So you have to try to leverage other people, and if you really want it to be passive, otherwise it's starting to become more and more active. So real estate is kind of a catch-22 situation where it can be active and it can be passive. Depends upon how you kind of run it.
Right. And also, if you have a 9 to 5, it's not always a good thing, to have you can't always run out and fix everything during that, um, during your 9 to 5. So it's better just have somebody else do it.
Yeah.
You cannot scale doing that. The more properties you have, there's no way you're going to be able to run around and try to do everything yourself.
Absolutely. I realize that myself, right? So there's a notion of growth versus scale. And I always think about that. So I can grow from maybe, my primary home to one or two rentals or three rentals by investing into it, or house hacking, or moving from one primary to another primary. But if I really want to scale, then I have to leverage teams, be it contractors, be it virtual assistants, be it bookkeeping, be it whatever, because you need all that help to scale to the next level.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So uh, after we got that duplex, uh, again, we're trying multiple things. My wife decided, let's open up a hair salon.
Interesting. Was your wife, did she had a hair background? Is she a cosmetologist, or you were just investors?
She did not, but I believe what started that idea was just the fact that she couldn't find one that catered to professional women. She thought she could do a better job, not being the stylist herself, but running the business. So our idea was we're gonna get some, get a storefront. Our mother is had a salon in Jamaica. She hired out the different stylists and the chairs, and that's how she made her living. We're both working 9 to 5. We're not going to be the one sitting there. Her mom was living with us at the time. She could run the business for us. We handle the background, the finances. On the weekends, we would be there to, give her some time off. In the meantime, we just enjoy fruits of our labor. Running a storefront, it's, dealing with customers. It's very time intensive, right? It's very stressful. We had fun. It was a good experience. It taught me more. It gave me more experience in running accounting, doing payroll, running a team, um, advertising. So all that marketing, all that takes to run a business, I learned from that, from just doing that thing. Um, but
Absolutely. It's surprising me because uh, my journey is also pretty similar. So we owned a salon, or we bought a salon in
yeah,
20 tail end of 2016 that we sold in 2022. And you're right. I mean, the salon is a lot of work. Now, it's a little different for us because my wife, she's a licensed cosmetologist. She has managed salons for other people.
uh,
So we were managing the salon, and while my wife, she was actually operating the salon. But another key takeaway from one of the Rod's comment was, hey, just like you have real estate rentals, there's something called in the salon industry booth rentals. Now, what basically
yeah,
you do is you rent the storefront. You have all these different chairs, which are called booths, and now you rent it to hairstylists or barbers or cosmetologist or makeup artist on a weekly basis. So maybe they're paying you $150 per week, where you are giving them the space and the utilities. Now they are generally, you know, uh, responsible for their own clientele, and if you have any walk-ins, you kind of rotate them between the different hairstylists. So that's another business that was booming for some time, but I have also seen many salon suites kind of closing down. But
yeah.
again, it's kind of like, hey, you do it right, you can make a lot of money out of that. But at the same time, it can be risky as well,
It is
because actually what you're doing is majority of these places are rental arbitrage. If you think about that, right?
absolutely.
So you rent the space out, maybe $20 a square feet from a landlord, or $30 a square feet, and then you have a build-up cost, and then you still have to pay rent to your landlord, whether you fill up these spaces or not.
That's
And
right.
then you're trying to fill up these spaces, or you have to work the business. And that's where this side of the industry, we did that. We had some booth rental, and we were doing operating the salon, but it wasn't passive. And for
That's
us,
right. It takes
it was
so
like,
much time.
it takes a lot of work. And when everybody is off on a vacation, you are there because you are busy.
That's right.
So we
That's
miss
right.
so many holidays, we miss so many vacations, we miss so many family events, and we said, you know what? there has to be a better way. And for us, that was actually the turning point.
When my wife got pregnant after about 5 years, um, and we're just like, how are we going to do this with a new baby? And she was really the one that was there on the weekends, but we had no life. you know, we decided at time to shut it down because it's not going to work out.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's a different beast. So
yeah,
how did you transition from the salon to the actual real estate or the financial
yeah. So
freedom side of things?
we're like, you know what's not taking a lot of our time? This rental property that we have here. Money keeps coming whether we do anything or not. Every month, money still comes in. We don't have to do much. Just keep the tenants happy. I went back into Georgia REIA. Started listening to podcasts. I would listen to on my way to work. Had like an hour, 30 minute, 45 minute drive. You'd hear all these, all these people that are finding success in real estate, and I'm like, I think this is what we really need to do. Let's lean into real estate. Every time I hear a strategy, I would try it. That's one of the things. So I learned about yellow letters, right? You know about it. You
Yeah.
mail out. You take mail out these postcards to people on the list. And my list was finding, I try to target people that own rentals for a long time, tired landlords. And, you know, in between my breaks, or I would get phone calls and I would try to return phone calls in between my breaks. And trying to make a deal. I had a few false starts, but finally I got somebody that he had already moved to Florida. It's an older guy. He already moved to Florida. He'd sold most of his properties already. He had one left in Norcross, duplex in Norcross, and it was kind of run down, which is great, because now there's a price negotiation. I went by, looked at the property, and I was just planning on giving him more, but he said, "Hey, just give me uh, whatever the city um, assess assess the property for," and they assessed it at 115, and the property was worth probably at 150 or something like that. When the assessment value is always less than
Yeah.
the
So you
actual
got a
value of
home
the
run there.
property, right? So I was like so excited, um, got my first deal off of Yellow Letters.
Off
Um,
market mailings. Yeah.
Now, where's the money going to come from? Not a problem, right? Um, this is when I've heard also concept of borrowing from your 401k. So we used between my wife and I, we borrowed from our 401k. We we were able to purchase a property. It was you know fix up the property. Went through a bunch of contractors, a lot of false starts. Same deal. You're going to go through when you're fixing properties, when you're dealing with contractors, you're going to run into a number of contractors before you find the ones that you like to work with or that are good to work with for you. So, I learned a few more lessons from that. You know, People that come in, they bill you for every little line item, or they say they're going to do something but don't really do it. So, more life lessons, I call them. I learned more from that. And all this time, I'm learning more of how to screen tenants, how to be a better landlord, um, how to deal with contractors. So, all these little bumps in the road that I experienced, they're all think you all need them to become, better at real estate investing, because it's all just it's like you're working that real estate muscle, you know.
Yeah. So the strategy that you used here is right. So you sent out those yellow postcard mailers for to find an offline deal, so you could get a real deal in the real sense, right? And you found this a tired landlord who moved out to Florida who wants to sell this last duplex in Norcross for assessed value, which is much below than the market price.
Right.
Now, to finance side of the things, the strategy that you used, which was smart, not to, because a lot of people, the mistake that they make is they actually withdraw money from their 401k, which kind of brings in the penalties and the tax event, right? But what you did was you borrowed from your 401k. So what you do when you borrow the money, it does not trigger the tax penalty. It does not trigger the tax, as a as an income. It's not taxable income. But what you have to do is you have to pay back along with interest, whatever the
Right.
market interest is, to your back to your 401k. And by the way, you're paying to your 401k that interest money, that's an income for your 401k. So in one sense you lost a little bit on your stocks or whatever your 401k was investing in, but on the other hand, that interest that you paid it for yourself for your own retirement. So that was smart.
Correct. And about this time, I'm also thinking, I'm reading more, and I'm deciding, you know what, 401k is great, but maybe that's not for me. I'm figuring out, it might work for some people, but I would like, uh, probably to have assets that I can touch and feel, and not necessarily something in the stock market, that, uh, to wait until I'm 50 or 65 when I retire to, to get the benefits of. So at this point, I really am feeling that, um, yeah, it was great to have this money in the 401k, but I'd rather, what if the real estate property that I'm purchasing, what that is my retirement plan. I learned about auctions, you know. I went through a few auctions. I checked out auction.com, and I think my next property I bought through auction.com. There was a property in Anderson, South Carolina. I started looking in the Atlanta area for auctions that I might purchase, but the prices of them were higher than I could afford at the time. Um, so they, so I kept going further and further out, because the idea was the further you go out from a metropolitan area, the lower the cost of the property. Um, and somehow or the other, I ended up in South Carolina, and the property was being sold for. They said they marketed it as a 2 bedroom for like $15,000, maybe $18,000. The place looked great on the outside. It was in a nice neighborhood, well kept. Um, it was like a duplex, but they were only selling half of the duplex. We had two properties at the time. I felt like, yeah, this real estate thing is easy because everything's going great. This real estate thing is easy. Anything is possible. How bad could it be? Even if it's burned up on the inside, if it's, I can get contractors out to fix it. For 18,000, the holding cost would be so low. We can do it. So we put a bid on it. Eventually, the bid ended at 50, 52, 55, something around there. We won that. They gave us time to come up with the money. And when we went into the property after closing, the place was great. I mean, instead of a 2 bedroom, it turned out to be a 3 bedroom. The couple was in there. They were paying their rent on time. They're paying to the some property management company, um, and so I'm like, okay, I'm not using a property management company. I can do this myself. All we're doing is collecting rent. You never know unless you try.
Absolutely. You have to take risk, right?
You have
So
to take a
unless you
risk.
take risk, it's not going to happen. However, the catch here is that you want to take calculated risk. So you don't want to erode your capital or your investment. So yeah, but what you did was you did smart move where you drove by the property to get a feeler of it, and you knew based on the experience with the other two properties plus your the experience your past life in Florida, so that you can take this risk, and you were taking to take the risk, and now you had the reward where you had this great property for $55,000, which turned out to be three bedroom instead of two, plus a paying tenant. Awesome. So Rod, so how did you from here to and you scale, right? So how many doors do you have today?
Let's see. I believe I have like 27,
Okay,
27
great.
doors.
So 27 doors spread across South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, right?
Correct. Correct.
And a mix of short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, and long-term rentals.
Correct. Yeah.
And
At this point, I have not discovered midterm rentals yet. I'm strictly in the long term tenants, long term rentals.
okay, so long-term, no short-terms.
No short terms, strictly
Okay,
long term.
strictly.
It hadn't become an it, it it hadn't been on it has not been on my radar yet.
So what strategies do you think has helped you? Uh, so have your primary deals been, or majority of your deals been, offline, off market?
Off market, yes, yes, yeah. I definitely believe off market is for someone that's willing to do the work. I think off market is the best way to go. But it's not for everybody. You still have to be comfortable in negotiation. You have to be comfortable talking to the seller, right? You have to be comfortable financing, figuring how all that works. You have to know how all that works. And I think uh, because I've dealt with the mortgage side of the business, I saw how that worked.
Awesome. When did you realize that you are financially stable, that real estate is your thing, you have built enough passive income, or you're ready to take that big leap where you say bye bye to your 9 to 5 job job, or contracting, or whatever you want to call that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how did that happen? So, and when did you realize it, and how did you realize that? Because it's golden handcuffs, right? It's very difficult to to quit it.
It is, it is, it is. So, yeah, so my wife and I, we talked about, yes, at some point, one of us is going to have to leave uh, corporate world, and because real estate seemed to be working for us. It wasn't something that we chose to do at the time. What happened was COVID happened, and during COVID, working at the company I was working with, they downsized. They got rid of 30% of the workforce, and I was a part of that 30%. And we looked at what we had at the time, and you know, we had enough money coming in to offset with our expenses and all that. We had enough money to offset our expenses from the rental property, that the expenses that our life had, and the rental property. Um, so I really didn't have to get another job.
Is your spouse still working corporate, or she full
Yes,
time with you in real estate?
she is. She's still working corporate. She loves her job.
Okay. So let's talk about your portfolio now, right? So you got a portfolio of 27 doors. And what percentage of that
before COVID, 19 doors. So with the money that I got, I'm going to find off market properties and either try to wholesale them to make cash, uh, or I'm going to find my next property to hold, to buy and hold. Got a call from a older couple that owned 8 units in College Park. COVID happened, right? This was during COVID. People were not paying. They could not evict anyone. So they were really stressed out, really wanted to get out of that situation. And I was able to take the money that their company gave me as, what do you call that when they give you
Severance.
severance pay, and use that as my down payment. And they held some of the financing, and and so that was my uh, first foray into doing seller financing, because they held the financing for part of the property, and I was able to secure those buildings, renovate them, and re-rent the all 8 units at a higher price point. That is when I felt like, okay, we could do this. I felt like everything was more stable. I felt
So
more like a real estate investor at that time, because I didn't have my 9 to 5 to lean on. We had to make this 8 unit work, you know.
yeah,
So
let's
that
dig deeper into this deal, right? So, anyways, we always like to talk about a deal that is kind of close. Looks like this deal is a turning point of your bigger life, as I call it, because we want it to be more fulfilled, and this is where the moment where you felt is fulfilled, right? So let's dig deeper into the numbers. So it's 8 units in College Park, and at the time when you acquired it, it was distressed because you have tenants in there who are not paying rents, and you have a tired landlord who wants to sell it. So what was your acquisition price on this?
we came up with the idea of, if I was able to find, okay, so the 8 units are one fourplex and two duplexes, all side by side, which makes up 8 units. So we decided to split it up and get, if I can purchase the two duplexes, they would hold financing on the fourplex, um, and I would just make payments to them, and within 2 years refinance and cash them out. So the price for the two duplexes, I believe, was 225, and the fourplex might have been 310 or something like that. Yeah, I was able to do that. I was able to come up with the funds to acquire the two duplexes. They held the fourplex into using the 401k, their 401k. They held it into their IRA, right? And I just made payments, and I was able to get money to do the rehab. But we took everything apart down to the studs,
Starts.
and redid everything. And I think at that time, that's when short-term rentals uh, was on on my radar, and I felt like once I get this thing stabilized, my idea was to rehab them well enough where I could actually use them as a short-term rental.
And are you using them as a short-term rental now?
Right now, the fourplex is still long-term tenants, but the two duplexes, we converted them all to short-term rentals.
Short-term and midterms, right?
Right. Yeah, short-term, midterm, and
Great,
it's working great.
great. So let's go a little deep into your management side of the things. Right now, you have 27 doors. How do you manage these properties? Because again, you're diversified. You're diversified from location standpoint. you're also diversified from your business standpoint because you got midterms, you got short terms, you got long terms. So tell us a little bit more about how do you do from a property management standpoint or bookkeeping standpoint? What software do you use? So how do you what is Rod's day to day looking like?
As far as management goes, it's kind of hard to explain. If you were to hand me these properties, just out of the blue, it would probably be, it would not go well. There's too many moving pieces. But because I acquired them one at a time, you kind of get into a flow, right? I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but you kind of get into a rhythm with them. Long-term tenants, they come in, they stay. You kind of once you set a good tenant, you put a good tenant in there. You don't have to touch them again. They pay their rent on time. Any maintenance issues that come up, I would dispatch a maintenance guy or a tech to go over, figure out what's wrong. Just make sure that the product looks good, right? So when a tenant comes, or if I'm searching for a new tenant, I don't have to um, do much to the property.
Plus, it gives you
Right.
better rent, right? So you're renting
And I don't want
faster.
to exactly. I don't want to negotiate on the rent. Whatever the rent I set, that's what I want, and I know my property is worth it. You know, and you also get a better tenant
Yep.
because of that. So that's my philosophy. Property management. I think even when I had my 9 to 5, I figured out how to do these things without involving the property management company. So I had everybody on some kind of payment plan where they would sell me the money or deposit it in the bank, Venmo, Cash App, whatever. I did not do checks because I did not want to hear, oh, the check is in the mail. As far as maintenance goes, I didn't need a property manager because you got things like Angie's List. You have things like
Thumbtack.
Thumbtack. You have things like Thumbtack. Whatever you need, you just have to find someone that's willing to go out to the property, um, take a few pictures, tell you what's wrong, solve the problem. And a lot of times I did not mind paying them a fee or whatever they charged because I'm saving money because I don't have to pay for that every month, right? This might happen once every 3 months. An issue comes up. I didn't mind paying whatever they charge, a plumber whatever he charged, because as long as he fix it and I don't have to call him again. So that's my management style is basically try to take care of the problem and try to do it quickly so the tenant is happy, and make sure that the problem is solved once and for all.
Yeah. So I know you do great with midterm rentals, which is kind of like a unique space, right? It's long-term rental of a furnished space like short-term rentals. So it's kind of like right in the middle, right?
To me, it's more or less the same. Um, Short-term rental, long-term, it's just the length of stay, right? I really
Awesome.
don't feel like it's much different. Either way, I'm going to. It's a furnished space. When they leave, I'm going to reset it, you know, like it was before. So whatever they did with the property, they move furniture around. If it's a little dirty, yeah, people are going to live how they live, but I'm going to reset the property and get it ready for the next person. Hopefully it's not damaged too bad.
So where do you find your midterm tenants from? So what's your strategy to find? Because there's a lot of buzzword going on about midterm rentals. A lot of
Yeah.
people they want to do it, but they don't understand the midterm rental market.
Midterm rentals, if you're looking for someone, and midterm, I'm going to define that as 30 days or more, right? If you want somebody that's going to stay in your property for 30 days or more, first place I would go is Furnish Finders, a website called furnishfinders.com. I would go there. Airbnb is also an option. You can create a listing that is 30 days or more. I would try to leave some time for someone further out to book the 30-day stay. And the closer you get to that beginning of the month, you want to shorten uh, the time you have to allow someone that last minute person, all they're allowed to do is they can just book a 3-day stay, a minimum of a 3-day stay. And if they want, they can book more, but you want to book a minimum of 3 days.
The strategy that you're using is you have the same space setup, which you're using for short-term and midterm rental at the same time. And the way that you do is if somebody is booking far out and you are doing this staggered, booking or stay restrictions period, if somebody is booking far out, they have to book a minimum of 30 nights. But if your place is not rented enough, right, or you have that
Gap.
in the gap in between the bookings, that's when you are capitalizing on the short-term rental side and you're saying, you know what, I'm available, this property is available, let me maximize my revenue. So I'm going to allow a shorter stay. So for
Correct.
example, if it's within 30 nights, then you say, okay, you know what? It's gonna be the minimum stay is like 7 days. But if it's within 14 days, then you come down to maybe 5 nights. And if it's within like 5 nights, then you say, okay, the minimum stay now is two nights or 3 nights. So that way you're capitalizing on that potential to maximize the revenue, uh, including a mixture of the short term and midterm. And that's a strategy I
Correct.
wanted because you do it great with this strategy.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, and I find that works for me. The idea is just not to have a short stay in the middle of your month, or to allow someone to block someone with a larger stay to book your place and block your calendar. Another strategy I have, I'll give you another tip, is I will create two listings. One is strictly 28 days, and the other one is the staggered option. But somebody that is looking for a longer stay, they will always find that on my monthly listing. And then I decide whether I want cancel on the smaller stay. I just kind of, we can either move them, or I might find another place to put them. It also helps if you have multiple uh, properties within the same area.
You might have somebody who's looking to rent your space today for next 30 days. So with this double listing, you have opened up that option for
Correct.
them. Whereas you might, for the other listing for the same space, you might have somebody who's just going to come for 2 nights, right? And that is kind of blocking your calendar. So that's really smart. So as we kind of get on to the next segment of this discussion, tell us about. So you have learned a lot, you have made a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, you have found a lot of success doing this thing, right? From your personal takeaway, what are the do's and don'ts that you would advise to the listeners?
Well, all right, first thing I would do is, if you want to talk about personal life, you have to make sure that you and your spouse are on the same page. It's very hard to do this life if you don't have both of you guys going in the same direction, or one person doesn't have faith, or doesn't believe that it's for the betterment of the family. Um, that's number one. It just makes things a whole of a lot easier. Other thing is, don't get divorced. When you do get divorced, that also, and you own real estate, it complicates things a lot. So you might have built a big empire, but you're probably going to lose half of it or more. And I know a lot of time we say we want this passive income because we want to spend more time with the family, but in reality, it doesn't happen that way. You end up working more hours a lot of times. I don't even feel like it's work. It's just life.
Yeah, you don't feel like it because it's the purpose that you were looking for. This is something that you wanted to do,
Right.
and that kind of ties into that bigger life thing, right? So this is what you feel like. I mean, even though you're putting in more hours, it still doesn't feel like it, and that's where your
Right.
life
Right.
is fulfilled with what you're doing.
Right.
And
And
real estate is passive in the sense where it gives you the flexibility, but you still have to watch for your investments. You have to still check if your properties are doing good, or if a tenant or the guest tells you there's a maintenance issue, you still need to send somebody. It's not that you have to do it, but you still have to coordinate it if you're managing the
right.
property yourself.
Absolutely.
And anytime you're bringing in a guest or a tenant, you still need to screen them properly to make sure that they don't do damages, because as rewarding it could be, you could lose a lot of money at the same time.
You do lose a lot of money every time you have the tenant turnover. So the thing is, try to keep your tenants as long as possible. Keep them happy. Of course, life is going to happen, right? Tenants are good. You might think you've gotten a good tenant, but they could also go through life events. They might lose a job. They might, their family might grow, so they need bigger space. So you can't help that. But uh, just remember, keep in mind, your biggest expense is when you have a tenant turnover. So try to keep that long-term tenant in that property as long as possible.
So, how do you see yourself from here? So, 10 years from today, where do you see yourself, or what would be your strategy going forward?
My long-term view is to have multiple properties in different locations. We just built a house in Jamaica, which we plan to Airbnb or short-term or midterm stay, whatever. It's going to be so. My plan is well, my optimal plan would be if we can have a property in different places that I like to vacation. And then, as the weather changes, it gets a little cold here, we can go to Jamaica, or we can go to Florida, or we can go to South Carolina, or who knows where else, where else we decide we're going to be. But just buy a property somewhere where you would want to live, even if you live just temporarily.
So, Rod, for people who would like to contact you and they would like to find you, how can they reach out to you?
You can always find me at rtjrentals@gmail.com and or look me up on Bigger Pockets.
All right, awesome, great. Well, Rod, we really appreciate your time, and it was really great talking to you. And, we hope to bring you more discussions like this where we talk more about bigger life, both in the sense of real estate and also how you can uh, invest with real estate and make your life bigger, better, more enjoyable, and more fun. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.